So Hungary is furious at Ukraine for hitting a Russian pipeline that will throttle its war machine, even though they know that they need to do that kind of thing because they're soaking up the sweet, sweet Russian oil on the cheap. And so Sikorsky then drops the hammer. I'll talk about exactly how that happened, but let's talk about what started this. So Ukraine's drones struck Russia's Unetcha pumping station, a vital Druzhba hub, reportedly halting oil to Hungary. Now, this isn't the first time. This is actually now the third time. The last time it happened, it didn't take too long to rebuild, but maybe it wasn't the same place. This one, now it looks like it seems like it's shot. I could be wrong about that, and I'll report if it's somehow back on tomorrow. I'll report about that. The Druzhba pipeline has been struck once again. It's the Uncheka pump station, Bryansk region in Russia. Ukrainian forces are making sure that this pipeline will not be operational for a long, long time, possibly forever. It looks like a pretty bad hit. Uncheka oil pumping station in Bryansk struck again by Ukraine. Annual pumping capacity, 60 million tons of crude. Critical hub on the Druzhba pipeline that goes to Europe. No more Russian blood oil for Hungary and Slovakia. So where are we talking about? Okay, so I'll show you this. Among the burning oil infrastructure sites across Russia today is one of the main arteries in the anatomy of Russia's cash machine. This is Uncheka oil transport hub, turns oil into tea by providing it sounds weird when I say oil into tea. You know what I mean by tea because I'm not pronouncing that, just trying to be respectful of YouTube. Providing not only export routes, but refineries as well. And so this is the Druzhba pipeline network. Here's Ust-Luga, and here's the pipeline going down here. And Uncheka is the what should I call it? The transfer station. And then you could go up into the Baltic states if you want, or you can go out into Poland, or you can go down to Budapest and Slovakia from here. Now this is in this is the last stop in Russia before it actually goes over through Belarus, and you can't really hit in Belarus, or then you're at war with Belarus. Even if Belarus was at war with you, that would be a pretext. And so it's on its way through here, through Ukraine. But if they could hit it here, they could stop it at the source. Okay, so Orban is upset about this. The foreign minister is upset about this. Trump told Orban that he was angry about Ukraine's attacks on Druzhba oil pipeline, according to the Hungarian prime minister. Wait a minute, what? Wasn't it just Trump that was not too long ago talking about how he was going to tariff India and perhaps China? But okay, so there's this weird schizophrenic kind of thing going on, and I'll try to explain. And it is really weird and really schizophrenic unless you understand some of these background pieces. So the Chinese refineries are snapping up discounted Russian crude after the U.S. doubled tariffs on Indian imports to punish Russian oil purchases. Well, why did they do Indian imports? This is the really interesting thing. They actually did go up to 50% when they were threatening 100%. They never did the 100%, but they went up to 50% on Indian. But what about China? Why are we doing it? Well, China gets a pass because of our tariff deals that we're making with them for at least another 90 days. Because they're trying to work out that deal. So China is benefiting from a trade truce with Washington while allowing it to expand its energy imports. India is in a different place, and wouldn't the logic hold that if you're doing this to India, you should be upset about what's going on with Orban, or you shouldn't be upset about what's going on with Orban with this pipeline? But there's a reason, and I'll get to the reason in a second. Victor. This is from Trump. Victor, I do not like hearing this. I am very angry about it. Tell Slovakia you are my great friend, Donald. Okay, now I checked my sources, and you can find this in Politico. Trump very angry at Ukraine for hitting Russian pipeline, feeding Orban. Here's the same quote. Victor, I do not like hearing this. I'm very angry about it. Tell Slovakia you're my great friend, U.S. President added. So I'm not making stuff up, but why the inconsistency? That's the real trick here, because, and again, nobody said that Trump has ever been consistent, but he is consistent in a particular way, in that the tariffs are going to impact India. There's really no tariff issue that's going to be helpful to Trump about the pipeline. And so that's part of the big difference. Now, Trump is actually helpful in some different regard with Orban. It seems that, according to the Kyiv Post, Europe seems to have gained ground by enlisting Washington to press Kremlin-friendly Budapest on Ukraine's EU bid, while Hungary stayed mute on the Russian border strike. Okay, so it could help with the EU. It's probably going to work against us with NATO. But again, Trump has 3 years left, and then they can go on to NATO. So, okay, so there's inconsistency, but it's consistent inconsistency, if I can say that. Okay, Alexander Dugin's not happy about this. How can we trust Trump? His behavior is unhinged. He contradicts himself on every step. Well, yes and no. Yes, and I can see how you would say that, but no, because the consistency is the tariffs the tariffs are part of the plan. The reason that like MAGA Republicans signed on is because they're all about the tariffs on India. There's no tariffs at play here. And so that's also led to the next thing, which and I'll get to that in just a moment here. Let me talk about Alexander Dugin for a little bit first. For peace in Ukraine, Trump, MAGA, American people, European population. That's who's for peace. Those are the pro-peace crowd, according to Dugin. Against it are EU elites, NATO, all Dems, GOP elite, neocon core. So here, when he's talking about GOP elite and neocon core, he's talking about old school Republicans like me that would be saying, no, you've got to stop Russia from doing this. And senators and congressmen, CIA, press, globalists, Soros, BlackRock, who matters more? The forces aren't equal. Trump has no chances. So even Dugin is saying that Trump will not prevail against everything arrayed against him. And that's a good shift in tone to hear from Dugin. Now, what is he talking about? Well, the Russian disinformation haze is clearing. An overwhelming majority of Americans now favor militarily supporting Ukraine. In particular, okay, so the Dems have always been there. The Democrats have been carrying the water, and thank you, Democrats. You've been in the right place on this, where the Republicans, we've been behind. Okay, there's only a small fraction of Republicans like me, but we're starting to kind of remember who we are. Okay, so Republicans initially, like, this is really interesting, this thing here. I talked about this the other day, but initially Republicans had greater support at the very beginning, right? And then it dropped like a rock, and then can continue to drop. And then in 2024, during the campaign, the height of the campaign season, it dropped precipitously down to 30%. And now it's back up to 51%. And again, that's still lower than independents or Democrats. Democrats have been holding high at 75, 79, 76, 77, 70. They've been doing a good job. So Republicans are starting to actually pick up the pace, going the right direction here, back up to 51%. Okay, so it's really interesting how that works. A little bit more by Dugin here. Russia considers the whole post-Soviet space as a zone of its interests. He's not lying. That's what, and so they're going to be miffed about Azerbaijan being mediated by the White House, Azerbaijan and Armenia, and they're not happy about you know not being able to pull Ukraine back in against its will into the Russian Empire. When Russia is strong, now here he's admitting, when Russia feels strong and is self-aware, self-awareness is high. It tries to establish full control over the totality of post-Soviet space, its geopolitics, but real amount of this control depends on a historic balance of power that changes constantly. Hence, the wars are unavoidable. He's saying we're going to war because we're going to control all of what was Soviet. If I was in the Baltic states, I'd be very nervous about that because the Baltic states were pulled in against their will. If I was in Poland, the Warsaw Pact states, I'd be nervous about that because this is who they are. They're like the Klingons or Romulans or the Borg or whatever from Star Trek kind of analogies I can provide. They're just going to keep coming to war because that's who they are. Okay, now this was really interesting. Hungary, this Andrew Perpetua was saying, Hungary was given so long with tons of warning to stop using Russian oil and gas. They decided to keep using Russian as an active choice. and now they pretend to be a victim? A government run by losers. Love to see it. Okay, now what's he talking about? Peter Cesario, he's the foreign minister from Hungary, saying last night the Druzhba pipeline was attacked again for the third time in a short period, cutting off oil deliveries to Hungary. This is a clear attack on our energy security and another attempt to drag us into the war. It will not succeed. We stand for peace and our national interests, which, I mean, devoid of any morality, I understand. But once you factor in the morality of what Russia's doing to Ukraine, how can you say that? Well, then this was answered. His last night, the Druzhba pipeline was attacked bit here by Radoslav Sikorski. He's the foreign minister from Poland, saying, Peter, you have as much solidarity from us as we have from you. Oh man, yeah, that's right. What a great way to phrase that too, because you don't stand you don't stand in solidarity with them at all, ever. It's all about your interest, always. So. Okay, and by the way, economic growth comparison between Poland and Hungary since escaping Moscow's grip about 30 years ago. Since 1990, Hungary's GDP has gone up 615%. Poland's doubled it, dwarfed it. Like, yeah, Poland chose democracy in Europe. Orban chose to go the kind of the way of Moscow. All right, as I was watching this, I was thinking, you know, Poland seems like it's on track. Hungary, like every time I hear Orban speak, I start thinking about Chamberlain. Like we just need a peaceful solution. Let's have peace. We're all about, you've got to come to peace terms with Russia. You have, like, it's the same kind of thing. All right, my friends, tell me what you saw about what you thought about what you saw here. Tell me in the comments below. I'm anxious to read them. I hope this was helpful to you and your understanding of what's going on. Thank you for the time, the likes, the shares, and the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.